Hello, everybody. Welcome in. We're gonna get started with a little mini painting here. Need to fix my cam though, it's upside down. Just this little bit here. Gonna flip and flip. That looks right. Ready. Working on this frost giant here. We got a wash on him the other night. So now we're looking to do a little highlighting. Probably. We're gonna do a little dry brushing on his boots. His tunic is actually looking pretty good. I think there's a few bits of leather strapping I think I missed in his off, but that's okay. Trying to decide if I need to do it. You know what? With that wash, it looks pretty good. Move my light here a little bit, see if we can get some better lighting. That looks a little better. Okay, a little bit of highlighting there on his his padded leather. I also want to hit his fingernails with a little bit lighter blue just to make those pop. And I think there was one other. I know there's a little bit of leather strapping that I missed that we need to go back and paint. But other than that, he's looking alright. Looking pretty good. We're gonna work on like his beard today, his horns, get a little bit of like his axe done, and then start moving on to his metal plates in his belt, all this metal stuff. But I want to focus on getting the things that are not metal done, and then do the metal stuff kind of last is what I'm working around here. But to start, let's hit those fingernails. I think I'm gonna hit them with just a little bit lighter blue, just to kind of make them. Or do I? I'm trying to decide. Those need a little bit of a hit. I don't know that they do. Now that I think about it, I think that dry brushing might be okay. Let's instead, I know there was some metal strapping, or some leather strapping, that I didn't catch the first go around, which we were doing in this Bane Blade Brown. We're gonna go back and we're gonna touch up a little bit of that, I think. Which paintbrush I want to use here? I like this one. Move this over so I don't knock it over. I'm gonna hit this. Strapping that he's got. I think we got like one coat on this stuff. Let's hit this right here with another bit. We're just kind of getting it all coated. We're gonna go over that stuff with some metallic. And I feel like I like to do metallics last, if I can. Work from the inside of the model out. Just because it's easier to... You don't have to be quite so careful with your paint job if you're working from the deeper parts of your model to the easier to reach stuff. Get that last. These bits that are like his skin, the things that are recessed, are just a little bit easier to reach. You do those first, because then if you get paint on the stuff that you haven't painted yet, you know, you don't have to worry about it. So he just had a little bit of like leather strapping showing through on his tunic. There's a little bit right here. I think we're just gonna do that as a little bit of a highlight. We kind of already hit it once, but we're just gonna catch those raised faces of his stitching there. Give them a little bit of a highlight. There's a little right here too. It's gonna be under his arm. Not gonna see it that well. Give it a little pop. And why we have this color, I'm gonna come into some of these little... I might need a little bit smaller brush for that. Hey Aspire, how's it going? A little bit finer brush. That might be too... Might be time to update some brushes here. I'm noticing that some of them are a little worse for wear. Some of my brushes could use some TLC. Got like some splayed bristles, and might be time to see if I can't doctor these up, or if we can't, might be time to retire them and just invest in some new ones. Some of these are just some cheap Hobby Lobby brushes. Let me try that trick with the boiling water and just dip the bristles in there. See if we can't get some of these back on track. Oh, here we go. This might work. Just gonna come into a few of these squares. Just like where my light's reflecting. A couple of these corners on his leather. Just here and there. Gonna maybe hit... I may come back and do those in a... I want to come back and do those little stitches holding his... Those should be a metallic. I think I'm going to leave them as a natural. Just do the studs in a metallic. Give this a little bit of a highlight. Much. How's everybody's week going so far? Today feels like a Monday. I was off yesterday was my day off. I had a little extra time to... vacation time I needed to burn at work, so yesterday was a vacation day for me, so I'm gonna be off all week. Going into the holidays, I don't work a full week of work until like the second week of January. I had Monday off this week. Next week I have Monday... I only work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I have Monday, Friday off next week. And then I have the whole week after Christmas off. And then the first half of the week of the new year off. So my brain is going to be in shambles. Trying to remember what day of the week we're in here going into the new year. Putting a couple of random highlights on this pack. Just to give it a little bit. I don't think a dry brush is quite what I want. And it looks pretty good with just the wash on it. But just a few little random highlights here and there. I think. Same here. I'm just kind of hitting spots where seeing the light naturally reflect. with the original base color I used. Actually, it looks pretty good without much of any highlight. I hit the highest spots, even on like this wrap. It almost looks like I edge highlighted this and I didn't, the way that shade settled. I'm gonna rub the edge of my brush along the highest raised areas of this little wrap he's got on his. I don't think it needs much of a highlight, just a little bit. Kind of let my brush catch the raised portions of his shoe. Color actually did pretty well without having to give it a whole lot of highlighting. I'm really kind of happy with this as is, to be honest. Gonna hit these edges. Who makes this mini? This is a Reaper Bones mini. So Reaper Miniatures, this is from like their this was from their Kickstarter they did several years ago. I think it's just considered a frost giant. I believe I have 2 of these. There was 2 of them in the set that I got, and I think the other one's got like just a slightly different pose. I'd have to go. I have like a whole like big old bin full of these minis from when I bought into that Kickstarter. Came with a whole bunch of them. Then these giants were like an add-on you could do at the time for that Kickstarter. I think I also got like a dragon rider, like a bit. She's riding this big dragon. It's a very big model. And then we got the Gorfang, I think his name was called. It was a purple worm. We painted that one on stream a while back. We were able to do that one in one stream. That was like one long 6-7 hour stream, and we painted that model in one setting. It was pretty cool. A little bit of an edge highlight down here. Hey Wolf, how's it going? Welcome into a chill stream. I was kind of having a rough day at work today, so I was a little stressed out when I got home. And didn't quite feel like I had the spoons to do a Dark Souls stream tonight, so decided it was just a good night to kick back and kind of just let my brain chill and hang out and do a little little miniature painting stream. Kind of sounded relaxing, and I could use the cool, laid-back vibes tonight. Sounds like we may be in for some weather tomorrow. I'm a little nervous. They're talking like some really killer winds coming through our area tomorrow. Chance of like 60, 70 mile an hour winds, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm gonna batten down the hatches. Alrighty. I think that'll suffice. I don't think that needs a whole lot of highlighting. It's looking actually pretty good without much extra to it. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with, let's put a base coat on his horns. And when I start with horns, I like to use, as long as my Talaran sand is not in bad, okay, good, it's in good shape. We're gonna start with some Talaran sand. I like this as a base coat for when I do horns. Up a little bit bigger brush here. He's got this band on his horn that'll be metal at some point, but we're just painting over it for now. We'll go back and paint over it with metallics later, but for now we're just going to blend it in with the rest of the bottle. A little spot in there where I missed base coating some fur in a weird spot kind of back behind his, well no, that's not, I think that's hair. Okay, now that I see it, it's kind of hard to tell his hair apart from his fur on the back side of his head. The texture's not a lot different from one to the next. Hard to tell where one ends and the next begins. Matros! It's that time of the month.
It's that time of the month, it seems.
That comes around so quickly. I don't know where the months go, I swear. Thank you so much for your subscription. How's the week treating you so far? This month is going by really fast. We're like halfway through it already. Seems like we just started December. Gonna get your COVID booster shot? Nice. Did it ever bother you at all? Did you get any, like, any symptoms from your first shots. I don't know if I haven't gotten a booster or anything, so it did knock me on my butt for about 12 hours. Thankfully, it hit me like towards the end of the night to where I was just able to go to bed and sleep it off. But I did get a little bit of the chills and the body aches about 12 hours after I'd gotten my first shot. Now, I got the J&J one, so I only ever got one shot, so I ought to think about going and getting a booster, but I haven't done it yet. Oh my gosh. My arm felt like somebody hit me with a frickin' semi. It hurt so bad. I'd never had a sore arm to that extent before with a shot before. It was crazy. That one, it was pretty tender. Okay, we're gonna put a second layer on him in just a sec, but that's gotta dry. While we're waiting for that layer to dry, I may go ahead and move on. And I think I'm going to base his beard in this Celestial Gray. Better than the newest variant, but not actually looked into. Oh my god, and the bad thing is like, unfortunately, this freaking virus is just going to continue to, it's gonna be like the flu. I mean, it's just gonna continue to produce variants. So I have a feeling we're gonna continue to always be on guard with, it's like, I think the traditional flu virus, you know, evolves year to year, and they try to vaccinate the best they can for whatever variant seems to be the popular one for the year. So I have a feeling COVID is going to kind of just be the same way for a while. We're going to continue to evolve our vaccines to protect us against the whatever new evolution of the virus is out there. So that they won't mandate it, yeah. It is getting a little bit too late for that, yeah. Yeah. Well, they've never mandated the flu vaccine either, and so everybody's so against it, but I mean, for how long has it always been a requirement for kids to go to school to have their MMR and measles, mumps, and rubella? And I think that's only slowly starting to see a comeback because of resistance to vaccines, and you're starting to see those come back up to a head where they were kind of non-existent for the longest time. Smallpox, polio. Yep. It's amazing what the political climate can do for that. Get in here and get his beard. Got a little bit of a nose poking through there. I don't want to hit his nose. Got a little bit of lip I don't want to paint over here. Do need to go in there and get that tongue. Got a little bit of a pink tongue we'll have to go in there and brighten up. Give him a nice frosty beard. I think a good gray is a good color to start with to get his beard started frosty. I think we'll wash it in the same blue that we washed his skin in, and then we're gonna dry brush it really hard with a very, very light pale blue. I think the same blue actually that we dry brushed his arm in, but I think a lighter base color here will help keep his beard a more frosty gray than a dark blue like skin. I'm still, waffling on how I want to do his armor. It'll be a last minute decision here on how we, decide to paint the armor. I won't even know. I'll just make it up even as we're painting it. Change my mind. I definitely want to two-tone it. I want to keep it one straight color. I think it could be a couple of different metal. Break it up a little. Oh, this is what I needed. I almost wasn't going to stream tonight. I was having a... I was beating myself up today. I was having a rough mental day. I about just decided to crawl into bed and play Animal Crossing. Just skip stream, but... I was able to talk myself into... not doing a Dark Souls run and just doing a little chill painting stream, and this actually is fun. Having a bit of a mental conundrum with my full-time job right now. I've resorted to making myself feel better about it by researching remote job positions online. Like, is there anybody hiring where I could do my job but do it for somebody else? And since I live in such a rural part of the country and there's not a whole lot of opportunities near me, maybe just start looking for jobs that would allow me to work remotely from home. Because I don't want to move, but I also don't have a lot of opportunities near me, so... Even if I never do it, sometimes just researching it makes me feel better. That little frosty gray beard. Ooh, okay. Is that hair or is that helmet? I think that is actually helmet. A little bit better light here I can see. And if we paint into the helmet. Kind of looks like that. You know, where that fur kind of blends right into his hair. And kind of pick and choose to an extent what is hair and what is fur. All kind of texturally looks the same. I think I got a little bit of to go touch that up a tiny bit with some Rhinox hide. I think I got some blue or gray hair where I don't want right around these horns. It's kind of hard to see. Nope, too. Alright, we'll just touch it up with a little bit of Rhinox hide. Right in here. There we go. There, I like that better. I gave this gray a good shake, but it's... Man, I can tell some of my paints have been sitting around for a while and need a little TLC. That gray is a little lumpy. That up to the... out. A little bit of nose poking through there. Looking alright. I think we can go and put another coat of that Talarian sand on. This is a layer paint, so it's a little thinner. So it typically takes a couple coats. Get some good coverage. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do a wash on his horns, but we're going to do it in stages. We're going to do like probably a 3-part wash where we're going to wash a part of his horns and then let it dry. And then we're going to come back and then we're going to wash not quite so far up and let it dry and just step it back. And it should give us this really nice fade. Okay. Something like that. I wanted to check Discord here and see. Malthus had posted a really cool image of this guy that somebody else had done. I was kind of curious to see how they did their horns. They didn't do that technique on his horns, but I think it looks really cool and we're going to try it on this guy here. So we'll let that other layer dry. In one little spot here that we're seeing some white shine through. Alrighty. I think I'm gonna take a tiny bit of the Celestria gray. Go in and we're just gonna... I hate eyeballs. Does anybody else hate doing eyeballs as much as I hate doing eyeballs? It seems like they never come out the way you intend. So I'm not going to get real crazy with his eyes. Just gonna hit them with just a hint of a white in there. The whites of his eye. I don't think they need much else. Like, I'd hate doing a pupil, but just a little hint of a white on the eyes I think will be enough to make his eyes show without like getting too crazy with trying to do an eyeball, because I think then they just end up looking cross-eyed. One thing I do not have is a pink to kind of hit the inside of his mouth there. So I'll have to go downstairs at some point and grab that, but we will do that later. I think, is there anything else that we want to paint that will not be a metallic? Like, he's got like this little tabard thing that I believe is some kind of a fabric. I wonder if we should give that like a pop of some kind of color. I don't know what. I don't really have any other colors up here. I'd always go downstairs and grab something. What to do with that? Whoops. A new paint that I've never used before. No, I think I'm gonna do it in this color. I think a little lightness. Wow, for being a base color, that seems really runny. I need to shake that some more. It's got like a big gloop in it. It's a brand new paint pot too, so shouldn't be real runny or dried out. Just cracked it open. There we go. That feels a little bit better. I think I'm gonna give this an off-white. We're gonna the chain parts, the little round medallions on his on this here, we're gonna paint a metal color, but I want to give the base of this something that's not metallic. I don't want to get too crazy with his color scheme. I want to keep it kind of these earthy blue tones. Something that'll contrast nice with the metallic, so we're just gonna keep it pretty subtle. We'll come back in and we'll do this trim piece in an accent color. First coat down of this. Keep it thin layers so we don't clog up these details with much paint. But he's got like this weird glob underneath him here. Not real sure what to do. That trim color can be something else. They kind of just tossed the detail of his underside out the window when they were doing this model. They're like, yeah, we'll just sculpt what you can see. You're not supposed to hold these upside down. So his underbelly. It just kind of went, meh, whatever. Gave up on the underside with the details. Just don't know what color I want to trim that out in. Maybe do this one. Kind of like a weird brown, but I think once we give it a wash, I don't want to be too matchy-matchy with the other brown, but I think with the metal that I want to do this into, it will kind of accent that a little bit. There we go. Kind of make it look more clothy than leather is what I'm after. Get these edges that are hiding in here. No? Have to let that dry a little bit. Get that to layer up correctly. Nice thing is with this we can bounce around a tiny bit. Alrighty. Let's get a wash on his beard. We're gonna do this green shade that we had done before. Let's see, what brush do I want to use for that? We might be able to use, well, I think that's gonna be a little too, make it a little bit thicker brush. This one, what we were kind of using the other night. Give this a little bit of a shake. I don't know that pigment in washes really settle much, but probably wouldn't hurt to give a little bit of a little shake, a little shimmy. But I think washing this in the same as we did his skin, kind of tie that in a little bit. We're gonna get right up next to his skin, like here at his face. Then we're gonna give it this this beard a fairly heavy dry brush with this lighter blue that I've got. We're gonna really try to bring this lightness back up in his beard. I want his beard to be pretty frosty. This darker wash right up next to that dark fur, we can let that kind of help lead the difference in between the two here. So bring it down into that that belt too, because we haven't painted any of that yet. I don't want that to run too much onto this leather so it doesn't muddy up that, but on the Rhinox hide fur, so dark you won't really notice it if it bleeds a little heavy in there, but I want to definitely avoid that leather looking blue. Don't really want that. Same wash that we used on his face, so it can kind of pool in around those cheeks a little bit. That was the same color. Looking pretty good, you think? Yeah, we're gonna dry brush it pretty good with some lighter color and bring it back, get it lighter. But I think this will be a nice wash to keep it looking frosty. We base coated it in like a light gray. Did I name him yet? No, we haven't. I think he needs like a Northlandic. He's he's a Viking from the cold north. An Icelandic type of name. Have to think of something cool. Get it? Because he's a frost giant. And it's a cool name. But it's that's a little heavy, so I'm just gonna use my brush. Dry my brush off a little bit. Pull some of that shade out of that here. But kind of let it settle in around the fur here where we want that to kind of not have a harsh white line there where those two materials meet, his hair and his fur. So I definitely want to make sure we get shade to kind of settle in that transition area. Larry was looking pretty cool though. I didn't mind that birch. The birch, especially if you're doing like a white orc, a pale orc. That birch handle actually didn't look bad at all, I didn't think. Hard to pull off? Well, it's worth some practice. You know, you don't know if you like it until you try it. It'd be cool to try, like, if you had, like, some terrain, like some bigger pieces of tree trunk to experiment with. A weapon handle is such a small piece of wood to really know if, to really, you know, kind of get that technique mastered. But if you had, like, some terrain pieces to try it on, I think it'd definitely be worth exploring and getting some practice on. Absolutely. Roar! Okay. Okay. That's the wash for the beard. I don't have the right shade for this. He's looking really good. Absolutely. Yeah, he's looking great. I like the pale orc. You know, orcs you always hear like green. I kind of like it when the orcs, you do a little something different with the orcs pale orc. I did that with like my Nurgle stuff. I kind of like, you know, you see a lot of green Nurgle, but I also like the fleshy colored Nurgles and the and like the yellow Nurgles. Something a little different. Still got to work on him though. Yeah, he's looking great though. Looking really good. I'm gonna step away for a quick second because I need. Oh, is it ogre? He just reminded me of from The Hobbit. The hell is his name? The Pale Orc is kind of what he reminded me of. I forget the name from The Hobbit of the guy, so. Oversized. He's looking fierce. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm gonna step away for just a quick sec. I need to get my different shade. I want my my flesh shade to do these horns. I don't know that I want to use Agrax. I think I'm gonna take it. Start with flesh shade. We may still use some Agrax, but I'm gonna go grab my flesh shade, and then I need to grab a little bit of a pink to do his tongue. I don't have any pink. And I'm gonna get my Nolan oil too, because I think I want Nolan oil to do the metals. So I don't have those two shades. So a sepia, yeah, pretty much. All right, BRB. I'm gonna go grab those. Be right back in about 2 seconds. Okie dokie. Here we go. A little bit of this Reichland Flesh Shade. Gonna use this for those horns. I am about out of Nolan oil. I think my husband said that he had borrowed that the other day. Or something. Dip it into my hobby paints. And then I grabbed a tiny bit of this pink, because I'm just gonna put ever so lightly. And I mean really, really light. Like just the lightest brush. Almost like a dry brush. Gonna hit the inside of his mouth there, just the tiniest bit. There we go. That little bit is all I needed that for. Okay, so starting off with these horns. Now, I was thinking, I've done this two different ways. Now, with horns, would you say they'd be darker? The beard's mesmerizing? Well, we're not done yet. We're still going to go back and we're going to dry brush it and really give it some highlight, make it pop. We got to let that shade dry really, really well, or else you'll just muddy up your dry brush. I see a little spot here where we didn't get any wash in. Staring at it. When you hold them upside down, sometimes pull this here. Got that a little heavy, but let's just kind of... It's so textured that really wants to hold on to that wash in some areas, but you gotta get it like back up in there to some spots. If you hold them upside down, sometimes you realize whole areas you didn't paint. Okay, I like that better. Had some white spots where I didn't feel like there should be white spots. Put the lid on that. I'm always scared about spilling washes. I've done that before. I have a mess. Okay, so for horns, I've done this a couple different ways. Usually when I do teeth, I start at the base and fade up. But sometimes with horns, you start at the tip and fade down. Let's look at some images of horns. Like on cattle or something. So it looks like horns are dark at the tip and they get lighter at the base. So like the older part of the horn. See, when you do teeth, I do it backwards. At the base of the root is where I make it dark and it gets brighter at the tip. But for horns, you do it in reverse. The tips are the oldest part, and so we're gonna shade these in the opposite way I was originally thinking. Okay, so we're gonna start by taking this. I want to do this in flesh shade. We may do the very, very tips in an Agrax, but for horns, what I like to do is we're gonna start and we're gonna do a shade. We're gonna build this up slowly. So I'm going to take it not quite to the very end of the base of this. We're going to go pretty close. Just past where that ring is on his horn, and we're going to shade it a little bit past there. About 7/8 of the way, let's say. Roughly. Then do the other side. You know what? I changed my mind. He's got some details at the very base that I think are going to want shaded. We're going to just, to start, we're going to shade the whole thing. And then we'll start backing it off. But he does have some texture around the very tip here that I feel if we don't get some shade in there, you're going to lose that nuance here. And then we're going to back it off from there. Okay. We're gonna do this in like 3 or 4 stages. But the first part is we went ahead and shaded the whole horn. And then we're gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna do about 7/8 of it, and we're gonna do about 3/4 of it, and then we're just gonna slowly take that shade into where we're only gonna, at the very end, we're only gonna be shading the very tip, but we're gonna build that shade up, and it's gonna give this really cool fade effect, like those horns have grown out with age, and it's got a nice, you could do it with a paint if you wanted to like wet blend out a color into a fade, but I feel this gives the same effect, and it takes a little bit more time, but I feel it's kind of maybe a little easier too than trying to do a wet blend fade. Okay. Now we gotta let that dry. We're gonna just bounce around here a little bit. I'm gonna go back to this halberd he's got on the front of his front here and give this another layer. Build this white up a little bit more. And we'll go back and give that trim another go. We're gonna paint those little circles on that. Oh, there goes. They're gonna be a metal. We're just gonna paint the background of this right now. Give it like a linen base. I want it to look like cloth and not all metal. Differentiate it a little bit from his leather too. So it looks like he's got some different materials he's working on. Touch that. Yeah, I saw that from a Games Workshop tutorial. I don't know if you've ever watched any of the Games Workshop painting tutorials on their YouTube channel. Mr. Duncan. He's got a really good accent too. He's very comforting to listen to. I like his voice. And his miniature painting tutorials are really good, and I would follow along when I was just starting to paint models. Follow along to his tutorials, and they were excellent guides for new beginners. But lots of really great techniques that you could use across all different types of models. Like how to paint horns and teeth and fur. I mean, all those techniques I picked up just from watching those Games Workshop painting tutorials. It was really good, and he made it seem so easy. Alright. Boy, I'm not the biggest fan of doing like really fine edge detailing, so I've got to like uncross my eyes when I'm done staring at it. Some people paint underneath a like a magnifying glass, and I've tried that, but my depth perception gets all wonky when I try to do that. It totally throws me off. I can't paint a magnifying glass. Totally throws me off. You think you're painting here and you're like painting over here and you're like then I really go cross-eyed. I had one for a while when I first started. Better not let some of my brushes sit in the water here too long. Yeah, I have a friend of mine that does. I think Ralph does. When he paints his minis, he may use a magnifying glass. He does some pretty fine stuff. Like I I think he may use a stencil, but he does like a Harlequin texture, like that, oh, there's probably a name for it, but that diamond shaped pattern that you usually see on like Harlequins. Because he does like some Dark Eldar from Warhammer, and he's got that pattern on a lot of his army, on like their clothing and stuff, and I'm like always super impressed by that because that's such a fine pattern. Like anybody who can hand paint that stuff is like, it's crazy. That's crazy level stuff. I don't want to attempt that. Okay, I think that wash is dried enough. We're gonna add a next layer. Hey, yeah, you betcha. Thanks for hanging out. I like sharing tips. Excited to see more progress on Larry when you get there. Keep us posted. Okay, so we're gonna start building up this color. Or like I said, we're not gonna go the full length of the horn now. We're gonna go just past that band. We're just gonna slowly build this. To where by the time we're done, that point's gonna be pretty dark. Okay, next layer. Let that dry. Put the cap back on so I don't end up wearing that shade. Set that aside. Let's think about what we want to do for some of this metal. What to do? I think I want his axe silver. That's a pretty much a guarantee. But do we want to do... I want to two-tone this a tiny bit. And I think I want to do some kind of a bronzy color. So we'll definitely do like some lead belcher for the axe. What else have I grabbed? We've got some bronze. Is that all of the metals colors that I grabbed? I know I have much more than that. We also got some brighter silver. Let's try this bronze. I think we may want to do some bronzy. I do like this bronze, although it's... These paints I've had for a while are in need of some help. I need some help. They've been sitting around for a while. They're not in the best of shape. Okay, that was probably a bad idea. I should have probably done that with the base of the paintbrush and not the whole paintbrush itself. Okay, I use a different water for my metallics than I do my regular paint, so I don't end up with any metal flakes in my paints that I do not want to be metallic. This poor paint is in such bad shape. Probably needs to be shaken up really well. With like some flow improver or something. Little on the clumpy side. I'm just gonna, I really have to like spoon it out with my, ooh, I about flung that all over my mixer. Did I see like on a TikTok? I think it might have been on a TikTok. I think I shared it with my group of friends, where somebody had taken oh, some like the metal beads you see inside of nail polish that help, you know, shake up your paints and stuff. They had taken some of those and put them in these paint pods with some flow improver, medium thinner flow improver, like you would use for airbrushing, and put it into their paint pods, and then used a reciprocating saw to kind of, you know, rubber band them to their reciprocating saw to kind of give it gives it a really good shake. They don't make like a little miniature paint pod shaker like you would for like gallons of home paint. Like, I don't think you can go to your local hardware store and ask them to put your paint pods in a in your paint shaker to shake them up real good. They don't make anything that small. I'm gonna have to really work this paint, because this problem is that this paint is getting it's so old and it's a little thick that I don't want it to clog up these details on his very delicate armor. He's got some really pretty inlay going on here. But as thick as this paint is, if we don't really work it, we're gonna clog up these details, and then it's not going to show up as nicely when I come back and dry brush this later. And it's probably going to need a couple coats too to cover up this white base that I like that. It's a nice bronze. Definitely gonna need a few coats though to really cover up that white base. A little blue peeking through here, but we'll layer that up slowly so we don't clog up these details. Give this a little bit more of a work. Oh, this poor paint's in such bad shape. I think we can save it yet. Just gonna need... Gonna need some help. It's on its way to becoming a dry brush paint. Pull this arm out. It's actually just kind of wedged in there. You've been disarmed! One way to disarm a giant. I have to see if I can look up any other tips and tricks for reviving your old paint pods. These things are not inexpensive, so yeah, I hate to throw away paints if they can be revived in some fashion. Then maybe a good shake with some medium thinner or some flow improver. Be able to breathe a little more life into more longevity out of them. Citadel paint pods are just really notorious for the lids getting gummed up and losing their airtight seal to where if you're not careful, dry out. I like that color on him. It's a good bronze. While I still have some of this paint out and before it starts to dry up too much, we're just gonna keep working through this because we're gonna do his leg guards here. I like this bronze a lot, and just the tone of these other colors quite well, keeping it in this tone of cool tones here. Oh, white spot. Touch up with iron oxide. Problem with this paint being the way it is it's like trying to thin it out, but it's also kind of lumpy. Trying to make sure we're not like leaving big old lumps of paint with it as well. Be kind of hard to cover up that blue. Get there with a few coats. May not have hurt to maybe base these in some kind of brown and then went over them with this this bronze. Might have saved us a few layers, but that's alright. We got by with maybe like a base coat and then one layer metallic instead of like 3 layers metallic. Might have saved us one. Long run. It'll be right. Oh, really tight. Get in there underneath that knee. Especially my brush has got a little bit of a weird flare when it... That my brushes kind of need some TLC. I should go through and see if we can't give them a little bit of a helping hand to straighten them out. I've actually had a pretty good hiatus away from paint. So, these have not been used in a while. That's why my paints are in the shape that they're in, and my brushes are in the shape that they're in. Is been sitting in my basement collecting dust for a little while. White poking through where I missed some little spot because of all of his textures. That fur is very deceiving. You think you got it all covered, and then you hold it in a different direction and you realize you missed a good spot hiding in the reaches. While I'm seeing that, actually I think we want to actually hit that with that other brown I was using, not that one. Where's it hiding at? Was it this one? It was. Okay. On the shoe, there it is. Just a little bitty spot. That was some brown. There we go. A spot here. There we go. I usually don't use this much water to water down my metallics, but this stuff is pretty clumpy, pretty thick. Normally I'd use like a medium thinner on metallics if you needed to thin it down. Metallics kind of have a reputation for breaking down. You notice them breaking down a little bit more when you use water than you do other paints. I just beat the poop out of this here while on my palette with some water. Was it Bob Ross says we'll beat the devil out of it? Okay, I'm gonna go back and hit the stuff that we've already hit. Just kind of bounce back and forth between those two. Now that this is a little thinner. Got that first coat on. Gonna try to cover up this white and this blue a little bit. And pretty good. I think 2 coats will do for the most part. We'll maybe have to go over where those edges are, where the blue hit the most, and hit that with a 3rd coat. But I think the parts that were white, we can get by with 2. There we go. It's a good bronze. I like it. I've always liked this bronze. I have another one, but it's very red. Called Screaming Bell, I think, or something along that line. It's actually for the Screaming Bell Haven model is where it gets its namesake at. Very, very red bronze. I don't like it straight out of the pot, but once you wash it and highlight and stuff, it helps it along. But I only like it in certain applications. Okay, looking pretty good other than like the tops of his boots where that blue was setting is getting kind of hard to cover. We'll have to go back over that a couple times, I think, just on those edges. That one there. I think this is starting to cover finally, maybe. Go here. Okay, while we're kind of waiting that boot to dry, let's go back and give these horns another layer here. And we're just gonna pull it up. And just ever so slightly starting to get that fade. You know, you can kind of see that line a little bit right here. We're just gonna slowly start getting a little bit of a fade as we go. Each layer. And you kind of want to make it we don't want it a hard line. Let's kind of like imperfect that a tiny bit. There. Then we'll come back and we'll hit the tip, and then I think we'll hit the very, very tips of it with a Agrexer shade or something a little darker, just to really show that is an old horn and it's got a lot of growth on it. All right. Tops of these again. I think that might get us what we need. Drop that blue. Little medallions, little chain bits. Is a little tabard, loiny cloth thing here. Gilt. It's a gilt. We're gonna give this a wash yet, but we're gonna wash it and it'll kind of help the brassy stuff on his. I have to give this a couple layers. to help bring that, kind of bring it all together there. How's it going, sir? Need to do is I probably should go and dry brush this beard before I start painting this helmet, because I'm gonna end up with dry brush on it. Just thought about that as I was laying down this paint, but it's gonna need several coats anyways, so yes. This first one on and then we'll come back. Kinda forgot about dry brushing his beard. Should be dry now. Won't get too crazy with that because I need to come back. Grinding away, are you? Grinding away on your WoW? Just hit 46. Were you doing Alliance or Horde on that? I know you said the other day, but I don't remember what you said. Oh, that's right, because you had said it had crossplay. Yep. I'm struggling with this metallic a little bit because paint pot is almost to the consistency of a dry brush paint. And it's pretty thick. And not want to lay down very nice. Gonna give this a quick coat of this bronze. Well, I still have some that's somewhat workable on my palette, and then we're gonna dry brush this beard. I'm gonna have to come put a second coat on this anyways, and if I get a little bit on the beard, dry brushing from the beard onto this metal, then I'm gonna put a second coat. Got a little ahead of myself here. I should have dry brushed that. I'm gonna paint the trim of that in a silver. Break it up a tiny bit. Yeah, I am. I'm having to thin it out a lot, actually. This is even with me thinning it out. Trying to... It's still a little clumpy. I'm working it pretty good with my brush, but... I almost had to, like, scoop it out. Put it on my palette. And then hit it with some water and then, like, pulverize it with my brush on my palette to get it to be declumped. Not clumpy. I can't shake it hard enough to mix it. It needs like stirred. Yeah. Not. Because I haven't used some of these paints in for so long, and these damn Citadel paint. Be so careful with the lids. Sometimes you think you've got the lids on good enough, and then the back by the hinges sometimes will not set. And it looks like it's closed, but the back part by the hinge is not set. I know, I already told Dusty, I was like, hey, I'm going to steal your Sawzall. We are going to spend an afternoon shaking up all my paints. Which dry brush do I want? That one's too. That looks like a dry brush, but it's actually a base brush. Oh, my poor brushes are about in need of some TLC. Actually, we may need it. We may need both brushes, actually. It's like a dry brush in between. It's two sizes. I think I'm gonna need both. I'm gonna start with this one. I'm gonna use this Longbeard Gray. It's kind of like a bluey white. Or do I want to use the blue or Ethereum blue? Let's start with the Ethereum blue, and if it's too blue, then we can always go topper with another white. This is what I dry brush the skin with. I still want it to have a tinge of blue to it. I want it to look like a blue beard, but I want it definitely lighter than what it is. Let's see if this does. I think we may do both. Yeah, I'm thinking it's gonna need both, because I don't think this blue is getting it light enough. But we're gonna hit it pretty heavy with the blue, because I would definitely want to lighten his beard up from what it is. Yeah, we're gonna hit it pretty heavy with this blue. I probably could have used a different wash. Okay, this is where I think I gotta switch brushes. Put some snow clumps in it when you base him. I'm thinking about doing it like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing it definitely like on his shoulders. So it looks like he's been walking about in the snow. Then I'm gonna go right into this white. But yeah, I think some snow up around his shoulders, maybe even a little bit in his beard would be cool. Not too much, but just enough. Like on the very, like on the, just on the front part of his beard is where I'm hitting it with the white. I don't know if I can show you with this. Like, look how clumpy. Like, we can just, like a big old booger in there. It's so clumpy. I know, it's not even that old of a paint pot either. I mean, I can kind of sit here and hit it with some water, and you might be able to save it with some medium thinner. Put like a little ball bearing in there or something with some medium thinner and just shake the piss out of it. You might be able to bring some of it back to life. Maybe. And I really have to them on your brush and then just really work it, because I don't want to clog up these fine details with lumpy ass paint. But you can get it to work. You just kind of have to, you gotta massage it. Little give it a little TLC. Work it, work it, work it. Hopefully my lead belcher isn't like that. Like I said, I haven't used these paints for a while. It's hard to know what kind of shape they're in. Sorry, I got a little close and personal with my mic there. Okay. That dries metallic, I really don't. You ever get metallic paint on your fingers by accident from touching something that was still wet? And then you touch. God damn it, I did it! Touched this fur. Some of my. With my wet metallic hands. Go fix that. Careless here. Watch where I'm touching. Hey Mel, how's it going? It has been a minute. How we doing? Graduated Flowtech and a full-time electrician, ready to go make that bank. Tell you what, that is the professions to be in right now. I tell you what, skilled trades are where the money's at right now. I know in my field, we're desperate for good skilled trade positions right now. Electricians, plumbers, HVAC people. They're hard to find. Not enough of them out there. Can make some good money. You just can't play Star Wars. It's so hard to keep up with. Malthus and I can attest to that. I think he quit playing before I did, or maybe about the same time I did. But, oh my gosh, it eats up so much time. I was tired of having to log in 3-4 times a day for energy and arenas and galactic wars and raids. Territory wars, battles, like good night. So I gave it up and I haven't actually looked back. I haven't really missed it, I can't say. Store rotations for shards, oh my goodness, yeah. And there's probably even more now than there was when I was playing. I've been out for about, has it been a year? It'd be probably coming up on a year since I quit playing. Heck, it might be coming up on 2. You haven't missed it either? Yeah, just the grind. Keeping up with the power curve when you're trying to do free to play. Them damn whales, man. Wouldn't have been so bad if the store stuff wasn't so expensive, but they were awfully proud of their store packs. Like, people dropping $100 or so on store packs. Like, holy cow, you guys. Was it dropping? I'm still in the server. I mean, I pretty much have all my Discord servers on mute because I can't handle all the notifications. I hung around thinking that if I'd come back and play, you know, I'd have people to come back to, but I don't know that I'll come back, to be honest, so. That's just ridiculous. I just, like, for a mobile game to want to charge that for characters. I mean, they're getting it, so more power to them. It's like, not everybody, that's not something everybody's gonna be able to afford. Crazy. Left your Arena Shard server? 5 characters a month, holy cow. I know 2 of my friends that still play, but I haven't really kept up with where they're at. They were still pretty much free to play. I think Dylan would maybe drop some money every now and then on stuff, but it was pretty rare. Galactic Legends now? Yeah. It's like it added a whole new power curve of stuff you have to go after, and just couldn't keep up anymore. With Relic 7? Guard? Dang. I don't know that I ever got any of my guys up to Relic 7. Like 4 or 5 I think was all I was ever able to get. That was like the max I was ever able to get any relics up to. It seems like because everybody needed the same damn pieces. And you got a bottleneck of, you hit a bottleneck that everybody needed the same pieces to upgrade. You had to like pick and choose who got it. General Kenobi, you know what? I think he might have been my first one too. It was either him or Anakin. Like the first Anakin. I know there's been other ones since then. Oh, I know. Yeah, he was amazing tank in that game. I had a pretty good Jedi team at one point with Kenobi and I think Ahsoka. Like the Rebels Ahsoka, not the Padawan Ahsoka. Fulcrum. Even though she wasn't Jedi, she worked pretty well on my Jedi team. Oh, was it like a, yeah, it was like what, Revan? Bastila? Kenobi. Gosh, I'm trying to remember my team I had back then. I mean, it was kind of the meta at the time. Yeah, and I ran Fulcrum in mine. You didn't always see people running Fulcrum, but I think well, I'm a big Ahsoka fan, so I would level her up even if she wasn't meta, just because I liked the character. Yoda. Grandmaster Yoda worked good in that team. Stealing everybody's shit and passing it around. Yep. Pretty much. trying to tell where this wants to transition at. Got my Discord open. Okay. Hey, Lejeune, how's it going? Constantly heal, cleanse, assist. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was great. Yoda was kind of OP. I don't know if Yoda's still OP, but yeah, that worked. That all worked pretty fantastic together. I'm doing all right, Lejeune. I'm doing all right. Oh, the old job's got me a little meh right now, so I was trying to decide if I even wanted to stream or not tonight, and we kind of started painting this model on Sunday, and I didn't quite have the spoons to get my butt kicked in Dark Souls tonight, so I figured it was a good night just to kind of hang back and paint on this model. Kind of felt more my speed for the evening. Yeah, I'm really itching for a break. I'm just kind of hitting like that burnout mode right now, and I have a nice break coming up. We have my office shuts down from between Christmas to New Year's, and I have so much vacation right now that I get to take some extra time off in addition to that. So once Christmas hits, I got like almost like a 2-week vacation off of work, and I am ready to kind of kick back and not do anything. This is a Frost Giant model from the Reaper Bones collection. There might be a more formal name for him, but I should know my fantasy terms probably a little bit better, but yeah, he's a big old frost giant. Two weeks to come play WoW with you? I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know how I feel. I mean, I'm down for playing some MMO. I think an MMO sounds a lot of fun right now. Some of like the grindy aspect of just, you know, kind of take your mind off things and just run around and kill wolves and bears and pick stuff up off the ground don't sound too bad, but I don't know. I'll have to see. Kind of get into this where like I'm like, oh, a new game sounds fun, but then I get the anxiety of having to start a new game, and then I just don't end up playing anything. Come to the dark side. Do you have cookies? No, we have pie. Kind of pie. I mean, there's all types of pie. I'm not just gonna settle for any old pie. Oh, this poor paint is such a bear to work with. prefer a nice cream pie of some sort. Coconut cream, key lime would be better. Whatever I make for you to give me? I actually got some brownie mix. I was at the store the other day and they had brownie mix on sale, and I right by the checkout counter. I was standing there in line waiting to check out, staring at the old brownie mix. Like, God damn it. They got me. It's fairly new, Lejeune. I've actually had this miniature for a really long time. If I were ever to take you guys on a tour of my basement and all of the boxes of unpainted miniatures I have sitting around, it would be impressive and also a little, embarrassing at the same time. Buying miniatures is kind of like an addiction. You always think you need more miniatures to paint, even though you have oodles of them at home that you haven't painted yet. And it's easy to talk yourself into buying more miniatures to paint when you have a horrendous backlog of stuff. I like video games. Like buying new Steam games on sale when you have a horrendous backlog of stuff you haven't painted or haven't played yet. Miniatures gets to be the same way. It's like, ooh, there's a sale and I need all these games, and then they're gonna sit in my Steam inventory for years and I'm never gonna get around to playing them. And then the next time there's a sale, I'm gonna buy more and we're just gonna compound the problem. But, oh my gosh, if I were to add up the amount of money I have sitting downstairs, certain miniatures aren't all that expensive. Like, these ones aren't horribly expensive. You're talking a few dollars a piece. For this model, you're probably talking, maybe $7 or $8, I would imagine, to buy this model. But I have a bunch of Warhammer miniatures, too. And those can run, for a model this size, it'd be pushing you like $30 a model. So, that's a pretty... Hello, Poolpuri! Yeah, we finished up a Warhammer miniature the other day. We were painting Nagash from Age of Sigmar. We got him all done. I just need to work on his base now. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do for his base, so he's been put on hold for a tiny bit. It depends on the models. Like, I have a... You know, some of the big models, like Nagash, that model to buy is probably like $110. I mean, it's a big model. Probably about 4 times the size of this one. But yeah, some of their big models can be pretty expensive, and some of their boxes of other models can start creeping up depending, so just depends. Like a spot underneath. Really hard to see. I don't know if it was supposed to be hair or not. I think we're gonna just paint it metal because it's really hard to see anyways back in there, and I can't tell. And found your way here? Well, I'm glad you found your way over. Thanks for coming by and hanging out. Saying hello. Just working on this model. I need to go in. I screwed up his fur. I touched his fur with my metallic fingers here. So now I need to go back in here and do some touch up. We're gonna paint the top part of his helmet silver here, but this paint that I'm working with is in bad shape, and so I'm just kind of, it's hard to work with, so I know I'm going to slop it around a little bit, so I'm trying to paint it first, and then we'll hit it with the silver later when I think that paint might be easy. Well, shucky darns. Okay, we got to touch up this this fur I screwed up. I have not, but I've heard good things about it. It's been all the buzz on the Twitters. Lejeune, the Arcane. Is that, okay, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that based off of is that a League of Legends? Is that the one I've heard that's been based off of League of Legends? Okay. I don't play League of Legends, so I don't know if I'd be familiar enough with the backstory, but it looks really good. Got metallic on this guy's fur area right here, so we're gonna have to like go in it. Careful what you touch when you're got wet paint mess and stuff up here. It's not something that you need backstory on? Ooh, okay. Well, I will have to check it out then. I was a little worried that you kind of needed to know the characters in order to like appreciate the story, but if that's not the case, I'm so behind. You know what? I don't watch a whole lot of TV anymore. I used to be really good about keeping up on shows, but between work and streaming and dice making, I rarely have time to watch stuff like I used to. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to keep up on Witcher. That starts up this week, I believe, I think Thursday or Friday. Witcher, the new season starts. And they say the show and the game are very little to do with each other. It's just based on the lore. Oh, okay. So you don't need to know about the game. Oh, cool, okay. I'm building up layers of wash on this guy's horns. Try to give the horns this fade. Coming along here. It dries. It looks not quite so dark. Building it up slowly. And I think we'll hit the very tips with some earth shade instead of this sepia color. Now I saw like there for a while folks were talking about Cowboy Bebop, which I am not into the anime stuff, but I heard mixed reviews about Cowboy Bebop, but then I think I saw that they're not renewing it for a new season. They pulled the plug on it. Yeah, it already got canceled. I didn't hear why, but yeah, Netflix pulled the plug on it. The adaptation was a little lackluster. See, I also started watching Squid Game, and then I watched one episode of it and then put it on the back burner. So, been really bad about keeping up on my shows. they changed so much. Maybe that's probably why they canceled it. They just didn't get good feedback from the fan base. The first episode of Squid Game wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. You know, the ending of that first episode was kind of like, holy cow, caught me off guard. I wasn't really expecting that. But, I just never quite made it back to this show to keep watching it. I need to, so I can stay ahead of everybody on Twitter talking about it. Even though now the hype on it's kind of died down since it's not so new, but... hard to stay hip with all the new rages. Is Hawkeye, and you've been trying to get caught up on Critical Role. See, I haven't watched, haven't started Hawkeye. I watched a little over half of The Winter Soldier and Falcon, but I didn't finish it. I need to do that. I got all of Loki watched. Got all of WandaVision watched. They were coming out with those so quickly, they were hard to keep up on. That's about the time I got really serious into my dice making, and then like TV just kind of took a back burner. I've never actually watched any Critical Role episodes. I'm gonna get my nerd card revoked saying that. Hobbies are better than watching shows. I probably would be better at... See, typically if I'm doing a hobby stuff and I'm not streaming, I'm usually like lurking in a Twitch channel or something. That's about the only time I have to like hang out in other friends' channels and like catch up on what they're doing.
I try to remember.
I used to like sit downstairs in my basement and paint minis and like listen in on episodes of Doctor Who, but it's been a while since I've even done that.
I don't know.
Getting into dice making? Oh, it's a lot of fun. I'm deep in the weeds in dice making right now. I've actually got some sets in some molds downstairs. I pulled them out of my pressure pot, but I haven't taken them out of the molds. I've actually got a couple sets sitting over in the other room. I just pulled out of my polisher today that are looking pretty chill. I'll show them to you guys here in a little bit if you want to see. They need the numbers inked on them. I was gonna do that tonight, but I decided just to dive right into painting this model instead. Want to get some cheap molds, see if you even like it first? The ones on TikTok look at me. The ones I just posted today, the ones that look like ice, I think they turned out pretty cool. You're down to see? Awesome. Yeah, I do dice making TikToks. So if you guys are at all interested, I'll post a link to my socials. On TikTok, it's all dice making content for the most part. My YouTube is a little bit of everything. It's Twitch streams, it's gaming content, it's been a little bit of dice making. It's just kind of the whole ball of wax. And then my Ko-Fi is going to be dice making, so that's where eventually I'll have my dice shop at. So if you want to buy dice, later on towards the end of the year, I'm going to have my store on Ko-fi. Because it'll have like a mix of like a Patreon and a store, a little bit of both. I liked having a Patreon / store all on one thing instead of trying to keep an Etsy and keep a Patreon. Just do it all in one spot. The rainbow ones and the pinkish liquid ones? Oh, okay. Gotcha. Dice making things on Twitch? Awesome! Yeah, on every other Friday night, we've been hanging out, and usually every couple weeks I have enough sets done to where we can sit down on a Friday evening and get the numbers painted on dice. It's about the only part of dice making I'm able to stream, because I have to haul all my supplies up here and sit in front of my computer, and I can't really like 4 dice sets in front of my computer because it's such a mess, and it's a bit the cleanup is a lot, and it's just a little too cumbersome. So about the only part we can do on stream easily is just put the finishing touches on the dice and ink the numbers in them. But if you follow me on TikTok, I'll do TikToks of finished sets, I'll do TikToks of unmolding dice, pouring sets. You know, I do the 3D printing of my masters, and I make my own molds. I do the whole kit and caboodle from start to scratch. So kind of share all that on that platform because it's easy to do in little snippets of videos. This lead belcher is in surprisingly good shape. For as old as this paint pot is, it's about empty. But it is in much better shape than that bronze is. Holy cow, that bronze was like painting with big old clumpies. Okay. I'm gonna just prop that up right there. Okay. Trying to decide how much more of this guy I want to tackle. Like 10:45? I thought we'd get him finished up tonight, but I don't think we're going to quite get there. Gotta put a wash on all this metal yet and go back and do some lighting. We'll get close, but we'll leave a little bit left to do for next time. We'll see what Thursday brings. We may just decide to finish him up on Thursday instead of play Dark Souls. I promise we'll get back to Dark Souls eventually. But I gotta be in a good mental space to want to do Dark Souls. Pretty taxing, and if I'm not in a good headspace to start, I'll just get frustrated and I won't want to continue. You put drums for wash on this metal. How we doing, Striker? Welcome in. In D&D, my character has injuries, but asked if eating with my magical +1 fork would do anything to my... Love to see some D&D painting. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I've recently just kind of got back into it. I did a lot of Warhammer painting several years ago when I was really deep into Warhammer, but I've been on a bit of a hiatus from it. And only just recently I've kind of picked up my paints again and started tackling some models that I've had in my backlog. And I have a lot of models in my backlog. Lots of these Reaper Bone minis that I did on a Kickstarter. I have a lot of these laying around. In addition to a lot of Warhammer miniatures that I could pick up and start painting again. Good night, Patch, yeah. During the winter months, yeah, that kind of seems to be a good time to do it, isn't it? It's just, it's dark, it's cold, there's nothing better to do, so I do find myself about this time of year, you know, being when I'm more likely to start getting back into the painting hobby. Yeah, I should have been painting this guy back when we were doing our giant campaign. One of my friends was DMing a Pathfinder campaign setting called Giant Slayer. I have to say though, it took probably about till the second or third book of that campaign. There's like 6 books to a campaign setting like that. I don't think we actually saw any giants until the second or third book. It was a little disappointing. But, after that, they were pretty plentiful. Storm King's Thunder right now, which is amazing. Isn't that one of the main bad guys in our campaign? Malthus knows. He's one of my IRL friends that I play D&D with. That sounds really familiar. I think that's whose castle we were in when Doug decided to blow it up. Which we weren't supposed to do, and it kind of threw the campaign to the side because our DM didn't really know what to do. Our characters were not meant to set off the bomb and blow up the castle, and so I think that campaign's kind of done now. We kind of screwed ourselves. There's a book for 50. Oh, a module. Okay. Yeah, because I think this was a Pathfinder. Not a D&D setting. Was a storm giant, but not sure his name. Okay. I knew the storm sounded very familiar. Come back and finish touching up that fur that I blubbed up with my metallic sticky fingers. It's not too bad, but it definitely is bothering me because I can see it. running a bard fighter. That's a combo class I've never seen ran together before. But I'm not as good about my multi-classing stuff as like Malthus would probably be. It's definitely fun. Now I've done like a oh, that was a rogue monk. I've done a rogue monk before. I've never played a bard. Actually, I don't think I've ever played a fighter, believe it or not, and that tends to be my style of character class. I'm not a big fan of spellcasters. Spellcasting has always been like kind of cumbersome for me, so I'm like, just wind me up with a big stick and send me in. A half-caster? Bard fighter would be good depending on how you play it. I don't mind a little bit of spell casting if it's like some self-buffing stuff. Like the rest of the party isn't counting on me to know when to cast the right spells. I'm just like getting myself geared up. That I'm good with. You know, with Paladin, I've done some Druid. That I can handle. Kind of. Your first was a druid, and he died right away. I'm running a paladin right now that's got kind of just a unique kind of character backstory. And she's got a prestige class of Hell Knight. Which is kind of just a fun flavor thing. It's not real powerful by any means, but it's just got fun flavor for story, and I'm enjoying that right now, so. You just, because you guys have just started playing 5th edition. We're still in the old school days of playing 3.5. So, I do not know 5th edition at all. I have the core rulebook, but I've never played it. I've dabbled around a little bit with some character creation. We did that one night on stream, but, yeah, I've never actually played 5th edition, so I don't know the rule set or all the nuancy stuff that goes with it. Like I do 3.5. And even 3.5, my knowledge is a little shaky. It's not evil! She's not evil! She's in love with an evil cleric, but she's not evil. And she's not even, like, officially. She's smitten. She's... Let's see. For the moment, she's not evil. My paladin. She just values maintaining the law above good. And if that means siding with evil creatures in order to do it, the ends justifies the means justifies the end. Ends justifies the means, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. You can't have good without the law, and so the law therefore reigns supreme. No, I'm lawful good. It's just, I'm very zealous about the law. Hey, I hate chaos. Like, my character has the ability to smite chaos. In my eyes, chaos is as evil. Is just as evil. So lawful. I probably would get along better with a lawful evil character than I would a chaotic good one. Chaotic neutral? Gosh. Don't know if my paladin would deal with that. Chaotic stupid. Isn't that what we call Doug? We have one of our friends, Doug, and I don't think that he could play a character any other way than chaotic, probably borderlining stupid. He gets antsy, and then he does things on a whim without really thinking about it. The consequences, that's why he derailed one of our campaigns. He touched something he wasn't supposed to touch. He baby Grooted a campaign. He wasn't supposed to touch the button. We all told him not to touch that button. That was the button that would blow everybody up. Don't touch that button. What'd he do? We got to a point where we were kind of had a lull and he was bored and he didn't have anything better to do. So he went back and he touched the button. And he blew us all up. And the DM didn't really know what to do about it because he hadn't really planned for that, and we haven't played that campaign since. A flask of unending whiskey? Well, who doesn't need a flask of unending whiskey? That sounds like an adventuring staple. Like an ever-flowing mug? There, I like that belt lined in that silver. I like it a lot. That's a nice two-tone going on. I don't know what color I want to make these plates. So I haven't made those. That's why I've been holding off painting those, because I don't know what color I want these to be yet. Because your guy was awesome in that one? Yeah. Is there a button? The player will probably push it. Yeah, they will. We were trapped in a tree and had some stagnant water. Brings your attention to the water, so I drank it. I was not prepared for that, but that's how I solved the puzzle and poisoned myself. Dark blue? I have like a brighter silver or... I don't know. I like this more than I thought I did. I painted this kind of like a linen color with this darker, this off brown trim, and I didn't think I was gonna like it, but the more I look at it, the more I like it. It's growing on me. So his this color scheme for this giant has pretty much been whatever tickles my fancy at the moment. So it's been I don't really have a plan, so to say. Not the kind of painter who goes in with a plan. I just start painting something. Then we just roll with it. I guess I did have a plan going into Nagash. I had like an inspiration image, and we modified it a little bit by the time we were done, but for the most part, we followed my inspo image the best of my ability. There. So yeah, he's coming along. We're kind of leave the metal parts there for now tonight. Because like I said, we're not going to be able to get this guy finished. What I do need to do real quick, is I got to finish fixing my mess up I had with that fur. We got to fix my fur. So we're gonna take a little bit of Tyrant Skull here. That almost looked blue, but it's not blue. It's definitely tan on my... That was silver. By mistake. Hey, not a problem, Mel. I am not far off myself, because it is 11 o'clock and I need to do some things before I go to bed, so the only thing I'm going to do yet real quickly is we're going to put one more coat of shade on these horns. I'm trying to get this fade going here on these horns. Slowly building up this, this wash color. 11 o'clock there too. Yep, I'm gonna try to sign off here in a few minutes. Gonna put a few end things on here to tidy him up for the night. Didn't quite get them all done like I thought we might, but I think getting pretty close. Thank you so much for the follow. Thanks for hanging out. We may finish him up on Thursday. We'll kind of see what how we're doing. What the game plan kind of feels like. A little heavy with that. I got a hard line right there. I just kind of blend that out a tiny. But getting some fade going on those horns. Then I'm going to come back, I think, with some Agrex Earthshade and get those tips dark. But I think that's about as layered up on the flesh shade as I'm going to be able to do there. I'm gonna wait and give this a wash because we're gonna wash his metals. I just haven't quite decided what color I want to wash that in. If we should do Earthshade or Nolan Oil. I'm kind of leaning towards Earthshade. I think I want to keep it kind of earthy versus a Nolan Oil. And honestly, I don't know if I have enough Nolan Oil wash to do it. So I may have to do Agrex Earthshade because there's not much left in this. There may not be enough to do all that armor. So. We can reassemble him here real quick. Copper and oil on the steel? Yeah, probably. Keeps those. So it doesn't get the browns too. Does his arm go in? Oh, like this. There we go. Yeah. Coming along. Those washes will really kind of help tie that all together. Looking pretty good. We just really have to do the plates. Some washing and some highlighting. And he's about done. Beard's looking pretty cool. I kind of would have liked it to have been a little bit whiter. I think a lighter base, or maybe a different wash on that. I think my green shade maybe was a bit dark. I think it looks alright, but I would have liked his beard to have been a little whiter, but I think it'll work. Oh, he's got this little pack on his back. So he's got his little... got some junk in his trunk. Straight white dry brush as well. That kind of was. I mean, this Longbeard gray is pretty white. But I may need to go back and hit it a little bit harder. That's what I hit it with, and this is straight white. This is like model white, and this is Longbeard gray. And see, it's pretty white. Not white, but it's pretty white. Gives it a little bit more depth. Give it a try. I'm gonna take a little bit of that. We can dry brush with some of this real quick. See what it looks like. If we don't like it, we can just dry brush over it with something a little darker. Hey Jim, how's it going? Nice to see you. We're getting pretty close to wrapping up for the night. Need to go hit the showers. I'm a shower at night type of person. Can't get up early enough in the morning to shower in the mornings. I don't do mornings very well. One of those people you don't talk to before 9 o'clock. Need at least 2 cups of coffee and me to be social. You're a morning person? Oh, I wish I could be a morning person. I don't think it can be a morning and a night owl, though. I'm a night owl. About this time of night, I was tired earlier when I first got home. Like, now I'm catching a second wind. Like, I could probably stay up for another couple hours. What I need to do is go hit the showers, because I'm gonna go probably lay in bed and, you know, scroll TikTok for way too late. Malthus, I think you're right. I don't think it comes off on camera as well as it does in person. I think it's a bit, my light's a bit washing that out. Don't act so shocked. But, yeah, I think that's where we're gonna leave it for the night. I think he's looking pretty good. He needs some wash done. The horns are looking pretty good. I definitely think very dark tips. We'll hit those with, like, some Agrex or Shade, really darken up the tips. And then we're gonna go back in and add some, like, streaks to kind of make that really look like bone, tie in all that washing together. But the horns are looking good. But yeah, that brightened up his beard a little bit, so he's not so all the same skin tone throughout. pretty happy with that so far. I gotta clean up my mess. Oh, that's the same button. I didn't want to push that. I want to push this one. So, here we go. Kind of getting a little washed out in the lights. I've got a light table that I bought in my basement for taking pictures of my dice, so I'll have to try taking pictures of some of these minis. My Nagash will not fit in it, but this definitely would. I could take a better picture of him to show him off where he's not so washed out in the lighting. But we can hang out for a sec here and chit-chat a little bit while I clean out my brushes. But this has been a fun model to paint. I'll have to dig in my collection and see if I can find the other one. I'm pretty certain I got 2 of these frost giants in my Kickstarter backer thing that I had. He's got a brother floating around somewhere. I also need to maybe go flip through all of my paint pods and see which ones are in the worst shape, so I know if I need to go hit the hobby store and just replace some of the worst ones, or if I can maybe find a way to breathe some life into some of these and with some power tools. I have to dig through my collection and see if I have any other bigger models that we could tackle. We've done the worm. The purple worm was a lot of fun. That turned out pretty cool. I definitely have Warhammer models. I got a whole bunch of zombies. I got some Blight Kings. I got a bunch of Skaven. I've got like some Doom Wheels. I have a couple dragons. I've got a dragon that's got a dragon rider that's fairly large. Those new dragons that came out with the Stormcast guys look pretty cool from Games Workshop. They got some neat, I think it looked pretty neat, to be honest. I'm also gonna try boiling up some water in my electric kettle sometime and seeing if I can't fix some of these brushes that are really flayed. I've got a bar of like brush soap downstairs too. I need to take some these brushes too, and it works better if you do it before the paint dries, but it actually does a fairly good job of pulling some of that dried paint out of these bristles, like these dry brushes where that paint tends to dry in there pretty quickly. Try to work as much of that out as we can. Yeah, I remember you had some fairly cool dragons, I think, that came out of that Kickstarter. Okay. Gonna unfold my paper towel here. And then I just kind of stack all my paint pods up on my palette, because I'm gonna tote all this back downstairs to... I have a really nice painting table and a hobby station with a really cool paint shelf that my husband made me that holds all of these paint pods in it. But I can't stream from down there, so instead I truck all this stuff up from my basement so I can hang out with you guys and paint. And I get more done when I stream with you guys and paint. Been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying painting streams lately. All right. Well, I think that's it for me. I'm gonna take off, get this mess cleaned up. But I'll be back on Thursday in some fashion. We'll either do some Dark Souls or maybe we'll finish up this model and crack into some dice. I have some dice that need inked that I didn't get to tonight that are ready to go. I also have some that I need to pull out of the molds that are ready to go. So the hands-on hobby streams have been kind of chill and relaxing. I'm really enjoying those right now. And we may just put Dark Souls on a little bit of a hiatus until like I'm on winter break. And we can I'll have more time to tackle a little bit of both things. But in the evenings when I get home from work, it's been nice to just kick back and relax and do a little hobby painting. So I'm gonna leave it there. We're not gonna raid or host anybody tonight, so I can get out of here. But we'll be back on Thursday. This Friday is DnD, so there won't be any additional dice making this Friday because we've got a get together with the D&D group, and I think we're doing a fun little potluck with the guys, celebrating the holiday before things get wild with Christmas and New Year's. So and then yeah, we'll be back on Sunday for sure because I have next Monday off again, so we'll definitely do something this Monday, probably some more hobby stuff, crack into a new model, or maybe even dabble a little bit in some Darkest Dungeon 2. We've been taking a break from that, but I wouldn't mind doing a run or two of Darkest Dungeon 2 or something on Sundays to shake it up a little bit. So you never know what you're going to be in for here. I fly by the seat of my pants. We do a little bit of everything. So, but yeah, if you have time, check out all the fun socials. Like I said, I've been keeping up on the TikToks with the dice making if you're all interested. Twitter and Instagram's kind of like a hodgepodge of all that stuff. And sometime before the end of the year, the Ko-Fi will have the dice store, but you can go ahead and check it out now. And I have a few posts of things I'm working on in my newsfeed that anybody can view right now for free. So thank you all so much. We will catch you next time, and enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good one.